So there's an article here by National Review titled Black Lives Matter is Crooks. Now, any person that's a critical thinking person probably realizes, smell this from a mile away. You don't have to be a genius to figure out that this organization are pretty much race hustlers. And it's nothing new. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton have been shaking down companies, corporations, in order to just to get paid for any kind of racial incident that happens. Unfortunately, it's them. They're over there capitalizing on the problem. And here we are. I mean, just the whole premise is pretty nutty in general, because if you look at, if you really, you really believe them, the title of Black Lives Mattering, well, just look who kills Black lives, what ends Black lives, and what the actual problem in the community is. And with any kind of basic Googling research, you'd see that police killing of Black individuals, while tragic, is very small. It's like in Chicago, they had like 1,000 shootings, less than 1% was at the hands of the police. So why would you focus on a problem that's less than 1%? Well, clearly this thing sells. If you're talking about black on black crime, that's blaming the victim. It's not a good look, even though it's the truth. You want to, it's like the narrative is like a ocean wave, and they're like the surfer. They need to surf this narrative. Do Black people probably get unfairly profiled by the cops? I'm sure. Is there unfair treatment? Sure. Can you blame Black society for all the ills in it because there's historical context and this and that will happen to them? Yeah, that's a conversation you can probably have for sure, 100%. But they're not having the conversation, and on top of that, what they're doing are completely is not helping, and it's not the remedy. What they're doing, basically, let's check out the article, but it looks like they're just a tragic event happens. They show up to grieve with the mother of a person that's been killed, and they put their media out there, and they get the corporate donations, like corporations like Pepsi and whatever, like Coca-Cola, I'm sure, give them the money. They blow it on lavish houses in Los Angeles and pay themselves. And the widow, the mothers that lost a child, or the widowers, they don't get anything. Although I've heard interviews and they're trying to cover their asses saying, hey, we promote your event, or you get media attention, and we put your in our hashtags or whatever, in our links, we'll put your Patreon or GoFundMe. So they claim they can wash their hands completely of this. Like, hey, this is the people that we support Black lives. We're trying to empower. We're trying to change the situation. People want to give us money for activism. And, if you want to, support the funeral funds of, this person or whatever, well, here's that's a separate link, So so all the money that they get, they can use for whatever they want. Which is, do people donating know this? Because you would imagine that people who are actually donating to Black Lives Matter, they want some accountability. They want practical change. They want to feel good about themselves, that they're doing positive things in the world. You want your money to go towards activism as far as police reform or something, right? Some solutions, but no. South Park's underpants gnome theory of achievement proves endlessly adaptable, particularly when it comes to left-wing activism. It's missing link logic. When it comes to Black Lives Matter movement, the thinking goes as follows. Black people suffer race-related harms at the hands of the police and in other ways. 2. Therefore, we should give money to groups who proclaim Black Lives Matter. 3. Question marks. 4. Racism recedes. The question, hey, I wonder what the heck is happening to all the money pouring into any member of the charities with Black Lives Matter in their names, is one most top reporters either aren't asking or are afraid to ask. There are any clear paths to ostracization and charges of racism is challenging anything linked to this era-defining catastrophe. If you point out that BLM co-founder Patrice Khan Colors bought at least 4 houses totaling $3.2 million, you might as well be saying Black lives don't matter. Khan Colors is a self-proclaimed Marxist who wants to be called a counter-revolutionary. And yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there's no media scrutiny, or you can't criticize them unless you're direct relative, unless you're black and direct relative of somebody who was killed by the police. Yeah, you know, I mean, you and they came to your event and you didn't get any of the money. They just like siphoned the money, you know what I mean? Siphoned the goodwill that came your way. But other than that, I mean, nobody else be brave enough to just say, hey, it's not going to anything. It's just people enriching themselves. Just a scam. But of course, you know, they know that. They know you're going to be called a racist, white supremacist, or you're anti-black or whatever. You're a right-wing conservative. Sean Campbell, a black New York's magazine writer, was denounced for racism when he published an expose, The BLM Mystery, Where'd the Money Go? The piece actually raises more questions than it answers, suggests that reporters will have much to untangle in the event that anyone decides to keep poking around. He begins his piece by contrasting the efforts of a grassroots activist with Con Colors fighting racism via Ugg Boots-sponsored YouTube hootenanny that involved everyone around the globe to move together, united by a groove and the freeing act of dancing. Take that, racism. Perhaps to the best known of many BLM charities, Con Colors co-founder Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation rakes in an enormous amount of cash with very little accountability and hasn't published a financial reckoning in nearly a year. Maine, Connecticut, New Mexico, New Jersey, Maryland, North Carolina, and Virginia have all revoked BLM GNF's charitable registration. Indiana's Attorney General calls it a scam. The group funneled $6 million to a nonprofit founded by Con Color's wife, Janet Con, to buy 100,000 or 10,000 square foot party house in Toronto. Amusingly, the mansion dedicated to, quote, trans feminist queer affirming space, politically aligned with supporting black liberation work across Canada, once served as the headquarters of the Communist Party of Canada, which was to suckers of an earlier era of what BLM is today. Well, these schemes are, I guess they've been going on forever. And I mean, leftism is very, very enticing. The term social justice, even though they don't really mean much. I mean, if you're just a regular person, really, not following politics too much, living your life, well, it's pretty easy to be suckered into this, or giving them money, or a corporation using them, saying, hey, what a responsible corporation we are, how in touch with social problems we are. We're not a big, just giant corporation that's making billions of dollars. No, we actually care about the environment. We care about society. And then there's this, we definitely stand with Black Lives Matter. We've given them a couple $1 million, just. So yeah, It's probably not much, definitely not much money to a corporation. He wants to be on the side of leftism and progressivism and wokeism. So they can throw a couple $1 million the BLM's way, no problem. But and the customers, that's the thing, that the customers feel better about this corporation. But they, but in reality, it's a couple of people getting this millions of dollars, and they're just spending on whatever they want, pretty much. I guess they're paying us. I mean, have anybody really examined the like Hillary Clinton Foundation? I mean, I'm sure Chelsea Clinton sits on the board and gets paid a hefty salary. Con Colors resigned as the group's executive director shortly after the New York Post reported on her lavish lifestyle in 2020 when the 10 BLM chapters were preparing to ask for greater transparency. Each of them disappeared from the BLM website. When asked about this, the spokesperson for the chapters declined to answer, the New York Magazine reported, and said such questions does not move the movement forward, and it also leads to more harassment and internet chatter when Patrice and their global network is the topic of discussion. Translation: don't ask questions that might hurt the cause. Last year, when BLM was criticized by two mothers of young men killed by police, quote, "We don't want or need y'all parading in the streets, accumulating donations, platform, movie deals off the deaths of our loved ones, while the families, the communities were left clueless and broken." So here we go. Black Lives Matter, originally a hashtag used by Con Colors after the acquittal of George Zimmerman and the killing of Trayvon Martin, has sprouted so many sound-alike groups: BLM Global Network, BLM Action Fund, BLM Grassroots Inc., that even major corporations such as Google and Apple got mixed up and joined in an effort that would end up sending $4 million to the wrong group, BuzzFeed News reported. Con Colors crony named Chrisman Bowers, the deputy executive director of BLM GNF, and the treasurer of a group called Reform LA Jails, which collected $1.4 million in 2020 and spent more than half of that on grants to 4 recipients, to $170K to Bowers Consulting Company. See, yeah, consulting company. $210K to Asha Bandil, who co-wrote Con's Colors memoirs. $250K on a company that Con Colors operates with her spouse. $86K to a company started by Damian Turner, who's the father of Con Colors' child. So just nice little grift for each other. It's like it's not like a organization where they're like hiring a lot of people. It's a very tight-knit group of like 4 or 5 people that are getting the money, looks like. Simpson, the mother of an 18-year-old man who was shot and killed by police in Watts, California, tells Campbell that BLM activists with positions at BLM LA and BLM Grassroots stood next to her out of protest, soliciting money for the slain man's funeral. Simpson says she never got any funeral money from either outfit. She later appeared on BLM LA rally where she shouted, "Black Lives Matter is crooks." She called BLM groups false flag, notes that they putting hashtags on our kids and y'all don't even helping us. We homeless, we can't get no type of help from this entity. There's a lot more to be learned about the finances of Black Lives Matter charities. Let's see, are there comments on this article? Okay, here we go. Feeling white guilt, take 2 aspirin and write out a check for anything called BLM. I'm sorry to say it does not surprise me at all. Here we go. Somebody actually knows the backstory, the history of something of this racial grift. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton would be proud of the scam known as BLM. and probably jealous. While Jackson was able to extort money from the various corporations via Operation Push, he never has come close to the numbers that BLM has put up. And the millions of BLM has gathered in relatively short time has bring Sharpton and NAN to the point of hysteria. If you're going to steal, go big. Well done, BLM. I mean, is it big? Is this really big? I mean, yeah, they stole 4 million. If like companies like Google or whatever, Coca-Cola gives them money, that's complete chump change to them. That's just like a rounding error and like a line item. But the problem is the fact of causing racial tensions in the country. I mean, that's horrible and that's deadly. That's real. That's the real damage they're doing.